Hello everyone, good afternoon. So we are back again with our third episode of our nutrition education initiative along with Dr. Varsha. Welcome doctor. Good afternoon doctor.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah. So before we start the episode today, we'd like to inform the viewers that from this episode onwards, all the questions from episode 2 till the episode 4, till the last episode, all the questions will be answered after the last episode because most of the questions will be interconnected. So it would be better if we could answer or get all the answers in the last episode. Okay. So the first two episodes gave us so much of insight about nutrition, so many informations we already had and an idea about, and some it was like we never felt that it was very important until the doctor gave us those informations, and of course some information was really very new to us. So our today's topic is about nutrition principles. So as we all would have heard that health is wealth. Yes. So here health is of course connected with nutrition, and wealth is of course not the actual wealth. It is all the energies and all the nutrients that we get with proper eating. So this is health and wealth. So today's episode we are going to talk about wealth, which is health, which is actually, as I told, it depends upon the nutrition, and wealth is not in terms of money but the energy that we can generate with help of all these splendid nutrition things, and that makes our life very happy. So today's episode on this nutrition principles, doctor will be highlighting us about the various nutrients that is needed for our body, the food groups, the meaning of diet, meal schedules, nutrition commandments, and factors that affect nutrition. It will also give us an insight on malnutrition and its effect on the human body. So over to you, doctor, with further delay.
Yeah, good afternoon to all of you. And yes, we are back again in understanding the nutrition part of our lives, the most important part. The objective of today's session is that good health is a strong superstructure built on nutrition. So let us go through that superstructure component. As Bharti just told you, health is wealth. Health is a condition of the body, not just free from any disease or ill health, but feeling fit both physically and mentally. Now, this is very, very important because WHO first started off defining health only by saying it is free from any disease or ill health. But now they keep on adding more and more extra things to it. They have now gone on to not just physical and mental, they're also talking of social, and they're talking about financial, and they're talking about emotional. And you just keep adding because there is not just one word that can actually give you a true picture of health. But when it comes to the wealth part of it, we are very sure about it in the sense that it is equal to energy. Tons and tons of energy to study and play is very, very important for all children. They should never tire out. And invariably, when the child is hyperactive, the parents get exasperated. But I tell them that it is a blessing that the child has got tons and tons of energy to study and play. Now, besides that, we are looking at it in terms from head to toe assessment of an individual. What do they manifest? And we say that the body should be well formed, face should be alert and bright, eyes sparkling, lips soft pink, tongue to enjoy tasty food, hunger satiated and satisfied. Bowel movements should be regular, skin smooth, nails shapely, hair lovely black because there are no blondes in India, and mind which is active, and appetite that is good. Now, I want you to emphasize on these two words, hunger and appetite. We tend to interchange the two of them, which is wrong. Hunger has to be satiated or satisfied, but appetite has to be good. How will you understand the difference between the two words? Your child could be hungry, but unless you give them the junk food, they have no appetite for that food. Okay? And the child may not be hungry, but put the junk food in front of them and their appetite will become good. Now do you understand the difference between the two? So hunger has to be satisfied and appetite has to be good are two different issues altogether. Now, on the right hand side, you remember this little poem that we were all taught: chubby cheeks, dimpled chin, rosy lips, teeth within, curly hair, very fair, eyes so blue, lovely too, mother's pet, is that you? I've changed it and said teacher's pet, is that you? Because here we are talking at Ekadaksha. And all the teachers find all the kids, as their pets. So I felt that I should use the word not mother's pet, but teacher's pet, is that you? Now, what were we trying to teach at that point of time was the emphasis on how the parameters of the body should be: chubby cheeks and dimple chin and things like that. So this is what we are looking at it in terms of wealth, that all the manifestation of the body is perfectly fine and there's tons of energy to play with that. So how does one get such health and wealth? It is said that good health is a strong superstructure built on nutrition, and this comes to you from good food habits, which is a lifetime of health. In fact, even in the previous episode, I had mentioned about the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. It is the mother, the caregiver, the parent who is the one who has to inculcate good food habits in a child, and so that it ensures a lifetime of good health. Why is health dependent on nutrition? That would be the next question we would ask. Nutrition is both science and art of feeding the body. Okay, nutrition is food at work. Nutrition is at all stages of life, growing fetus to until death. Nutrition is also there when you're healthy. Nutrition is also there when you're sick or infirm. So if it is at every stage of your life that nutrition is important, then let us now understand nutrition itself. There are four different things that you would go through today in understanding how health is dependent on nutrition, by understanding what is nutrients, what is food and food groups, what is balanced meal management, and what is nutritional status. If you understand these four things, you would be able to control the health part of your component by seeing to it that your superstructure is built on nutrition. Now, first, let's take the word nutrients. What is nutrients? Nutrients is nothing but chemical substances the body obtains from food during digestion. When you eat food, it gets digested in the body and then it gets broken down. What is digestion? Breaking down of food into its constituent elements, that is the chemical substances. So there are 6 categories of nutrients that we have: carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water. Now, carbohydrates and fats both are considered as energy giving. Protein is bodybuilding. Vitamins and minerals are regulatory and protective. And all of this is possible to function only if there is water. We are all on the sea coast, right? You all have visited the beach. And so you know that when the fish is out of water, it is a dried fish. And not only just the dried fish, it is a dead fish. So we are also in the same state of affairs. If we don't drink enough water, if we are not hydrated, then we are as bad as the Kanjapona Karavade. Okay, we are as good as the dried fish or the dead fish. So 6 nutrients. Now, carbohydrate, I would say every human being, and especially your children, are diamonds made. They are actually diamonds. What are diamonds? Nothing but carbon. And carbon, I equate it to Lord Vishnu. Have you seen the picture of Lord Vishnu? He's got 4 hands. One hand is holding the conch and the other one is holding a Sudarshan Chakra. So and there's a Gada. And so there are 4 different things that are held by Vishnu. So Vishnu is only representing carbon, and that carbon is the very basic constituent of our body. Now, if that carbon is attached to water molecule, it is carbohydrate. If it is attached to acid, that is instead of H2O, if it is OH, it is fat. Then to this acid, if the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen in the acid form, if nitrogen is added to it, it becomes protein. So you see that the basic carbohydrate, fats, and proteins, nothing but carbon to which oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen for protein is attached. Now, why do we say energy giving for the first two? Is because when you take carbohydrates and fats, they break down in the body as carbon dioxide and water, releasing energy. But the important thing is 1 gram of carbohydrate will give you only 4 calories, but 1 gram of fat will give you 9 calories. And that is why if you take one loaf of bread, and eat it by itself, you can finish the whole loaf. But if you add a pat of butter, you can stop with 2 slices of bread itself. So fat is one that gives you satiety. There are other also important parts of fats, which I will tell you as we go along. But you need to understand that carbohydrate and fat break down into carbon dioxide and water and release energy. That is why they are called energy giving nutrients. Protein does not break down into carbon dioxide, water, and nitrogen. It breaks down to urea and creatinine. And that is why we don't want to overfeed our children with too much of protein, because then, their kidneys will have to work hard to throw out urea and creatinine. So we would want to use protein only for one work, and that is to build the body. And in your children, how do they build the body? Your baby, when it was born, was something anything between 2.5 to 3 kilos. And then as they keep growing, they keep on getting their weight increasing. And weight increases because not only is their skeletal system growing, but their muscles and everything and the blood circulation and everything is. So that is called bodybuilding. And protein is required to do that job. The whole body is divided into 3 parts, just to understand. And when I talk of building, one, I look at somatic proteins. Soma means cells, and somatic proteins means their height and weight. Are they growing well in their height and weight? Is one part, that is somatic protein. Then visceral protein. What is viscera? Viscera is all the organs sitting in the body. And that part of the viscera is what we basically look at it and say, is all the organ system working fine? Is the child not anemic? Is the child got enough of protein? So generally we look at the blood picture and we look at the visceral assessment. And then the third compartment is the immune system. And would you not know about the immune system? It is your Army, Navy, Air Force. And in this COVID times, you want to see that your immune system is very strong. But sometimes you also realize, child went to the school today and suddenly you find that the child has come back catching cold. And then the mother complains, oh, the child, the other child sitting next to mine sneezed, and that is why my child has picked up cold. Or your child comes back with fever, and again you will complain saying that, I don't know why that other mother has sent her child with a cold today. My child has got fever. Don't blame the other one. Your child did not have the immunity, the Army, Navy, Air Force to fight it. So when it comes to bodybuilding, we want to build it in somatic protein, that is height and weight, visceral protein, the functioning of the organs, and immune protein, the Army, Navy, Air Force of your body. So please do understand, these are called as macronutrients, and the vitamins and minerals are the ones that give you the regulatory things as well as the protection. And water, as I said, is vital for all activities. Having said that, next slide would be telling you about the most important part of these nutrients. And one of them is, you're going one slide ahead of what I am talking. So the previous slide is the one which talks about the fats. Now, when it comes to the fat part of it, you need to understand, you can get fats. Fats are nothing but fats and oils. If they are solid at room temperature like butter and ghee, we call it fats. If they are liquid at room temperature like coconut oil, butter, and ghee, then we call it as oils. Now, when it comes to fats and oils, you can get the source from animal. When you eat chicken, mutton, egg, all of that will give you a source of fat, which is called as the animal fat. And that which we get from the plants, the coconut oil, the groundnut oil, the sesame oil, all these comes under the vegetable fat. Now, why is it that they are solid at room temperature? Is because I told you fats are nothing but carbon attached to acid. Now, in the four hands, if you give in your own child's hand, if both the hands you have given some toy to play, is the hand free to take one more toy? No, isn't it? Both the hands are occupied. Similarly, of the carbon, if all the four hands are occupied with oxygen or hydrogen, then it is called saturated fat. But if one hand is left free, then it is called unsaturated fat. Now, unsaturated fat can be monounsaturated, that is only one hand free in the whole chain, or there can be more hands that are free, that is called polyunsaturated fat. Now, polyunsaturated fat comes to you from vegetable, mono and poly come to you from vegetable, while saturated comes from animal. Now, you see the connection. Now, also, there is another way of looking at fat, visible. When you add butter, when you add ghee, when you fry things in oil, when you add oil to your nalla ene, to your molga pudi, all these are visible forms of fats, okay? But when you're eating groundnuts, you're eating cashew nuts, you're eating even rice, you cannot see it, but there is invisible fat. So there cannot be a fat-free diet. You only need to understand that the type of fat we give to children is very, very important, because that is what builds up. Fat is very, very essential. We have fat producing machines, and they're very essential for the simple reason that is the protection for our organs, protection for our brains, so that electrical activity does not cause short circuit. You are aware, right? The wiring, electrical wiring in your house has got a plastic cover on the wires that are copper. Why? Because if the wire gets exposed, you get a shock. Same thing happens in the brain, and that is protected from happening because of the fats. So fats are important, but we need to understand how much and why and which type we should be consuming. The next important one is minerals. Minerals, there are 26 minerals the body requires. They are divided into macro, micro, and trace elements. Now, why are they called macro? Calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, potassium, chloride, and sulfur. 7 of them are required in grams by the body. And that is why they are called macro minerals. The micro ones, iron, zinc, selenium, copper, manganese, molybdenum, cobalt, iodine, chromium, and fluoride. 10 of them. These are called micro because they're required in milligrams or nanograms. And then I said 26, but this is 10 plus 7. So the balance that you require, 6 of them, are trace elements, including arsenic. You are aware of arsenic being a poison, but here we are talking about it as trace elements required by the body. We have not yet totally understood how much is required, but they are required in trace quantities. Coming to the vitamins, again, like I have divided the minerals into macro, micro, and trace, we divide the vitamins into two groups, the fat solubles, A, D, E, and K, and water soluble, which is B complex, consisting of 8 different vitamins plus C. The 8 different vitamins are thiamine, riboflavin, folacin, niacin, B6, B12, biotin, and pantothenic acid, and the vitamin C. Now, do you understand that you have so many different varieties of chemicals that constitute our body? And all these chemicals, when we look at it in terms of nutrition, we don't call them chemicals, we call them nutrients. Having said that, now let's look at the next important thing that we need to understand, and that is in terms of water. Okay, I told you about carbohydrate, I told you about fats, I've told you about protein, how they are important in 3 different parts of the body. Now we come to the water. Now you have to avoid dehydration. You can survive without food for several weeks. All of us are aware of father of nation, Gandhiji. He used to undertake fasting so frequently. Those of you who are Muslims, you undertake fasting for Ramzan. Those of you who are Jains, you do fasting for your Pachusan. And those of us in the Hindu are also aware that on Amavasya and all these festival days also we undertake fasting. So we are able to survive without food for several days, as such, but we cannot survive without water. Even for few hours, if you have not drunk water, there will be major problems. So we have to avoid dehydration. Now, coming to energy, energy is never lost. Okay, that is the physics law of nature. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. This is the sum total of energy of the whole universe. It only keeps transforming. The same energy becomes light energy in your eye, it becomes sound energy when it comes to your ears and your speech. Okay, and it becomes smell energy when you're looking at it in terms of smelling lovely food and perfumes. So energy just keeps changing its form, but it is never destroyed. But when it comes to our bodies, the only way we save extra energy that is not used by the body is by body fat, saved only as fat. Plants save it as starch, that is carbohydrate, but we and the animal kingdom save all extra energy that is not used by the body as fat. So it's not that because I ate more fat that I'm more fat. It is because I'm not doing enough activities, and that is the reason why I am fat. So, and please remember that no energy is lost, and if you have excess energy, it is stored as fat. It's a very simple mathematical equation. Intake is more than the expenditure, you gain weight. Intake is less than the expenditure, you lose weight. Intake and expenditure is same, equal to each other, then you will maintain your weight. So when you have to look at in terms of weight management, you need to understand this very simple equation, three-step equation, and only then manage it on that basis. Having said this much about nutrients, let's move now to the food as such, because you will not understand nutrients, you will only understand it as food. So the next slide, please. A layperson relates to food, not to nutrients as such. So food is anything solid or liquid which, when ingested, nourishes the body at all stages of life, in health and in disease. So what should I do for a well-balanced diet? I need to have a proper array of nutrients. And how do I get those proper array of nutrients? It's from the foods. But is one food going to solve my problem? No. Foods vary in the kinds and amounts they provide in terms of nutrients. So now what does it mean? A well-balanced diet means a variety of foods each day. If you're not going to introduce foods, and I generally say when I come to the diet part of it, again I will emphasize, you need to understand that when it comes to the children, at each stage you're supposed to include all the different foods. And I'll come to the next slide on the groups on how they are introduced and they have to be consumed by the child. We change it in terms of consistency, we need to change it in terms of variety, and see to it that all the food groups are included in the diet of a child. So let's look at the next slide, and there you understand food is divided into groups, and there are 9 food groups. The first one is cereals and millets. It doesn't matter to me whether you eat rice or wheat or ragi or bajra or jowar, whether you cook it as chapati, whether you cook it as a gruel, you make a porridge, or whether you cook it as a biryani or a pulao, or you make a pasta or noodles, whatever you do, you're basically using the cereal and millet to form the staple of the diet. Okay. And to this, the next important group, this is the one which gives you the carbohydrates. Okay. And that is followed by pulses, legumes, and lentils. A perfect marriage between cereals and pulses, legumes, lentils. That is, how do you understand this? If you're talking of idli has got what? It has got the rice, and it has got urad dal, the black gram dal, right? We have mixed with that. And then we eat the idli with sambar. Sambar has got what? Tur dal, toram parpu. And then we add the chutney, in which we are using the roasted Bengal gram, right? We are adding to the coconut dal again. And tali kritike, again, we are using some black gram and things like that. So you need to understand that we do a perfect combination when it comes to cereal. The same cereal, if I make it as rice, then I will eat sambar or koote illati. I eat it plain with dal. Then I add rasam. Then I also add curd. So you understand that, pulses, legumes, lettuce. It can be green gram, red gram, black gram, tur dal, masur dal, chana, chola, rajma. We have such great variety. So we need to introduce all these varieties in different forms with a combination of whether it is rice or wheat, etc. So these are the two that will give you the major requirements of your energy as well as your bodybuilding protein. And then milk and milk product. The baby, when it was born, drank only milk. But can they live forever on the milk? No. But milk is an important thing because it was a complete food for the baby. So we continue to add milk, but we make it more as milk products. So we use curds, we use paneer, we make it as buttermilk, So we convert it into milk products and continue to add this because it does give you protein, carbohydrate, fat in a different form. Now, first three that I have said is the one which meets your major requirements of both energy and protein coming from carbohydrate as well as fat. The next three are very important in terms of the fact that it is the protective and regulate food groups. We need to look at it in terms of 5 different food groups: green leafy vegetables, roots, tubers, water based, and others. Green leafy vegetables, any form of kire or even kothmali chutney, that is coriander chutney, mint chutney, all of these comes under the green leafy vegetables. And when I talk about it in terms of diet, I will tell you for each age group how much needs to be included. So here at this point of time, please remember, we need to include every day some amount of green leafy vegetables. The roots is basically carrot, beetroot, onion, radish. This is the one which comes under the roots, and the tubers is potato, yam, and colcasia. The water-based is the gourds, the sorakai, the velrikai, the pushnikai, the podlanka, nulkol, chow chow. All these comes under the water-based, and the others are peas, beans, lady's finger, etc. So there are 5 different varieties of vegetables that needs to be included in the diet. Other than that, we have fruits again divided into 3 different categories. Yellow and orange will give you lots of vitamin A. Citrus will give you vitamin C. Other is the ones which doesn't come under yellow, orange, and citrus. And then the fourth group is the dry fruits. Now, here there is a caution. If you will give fresh grapes 100 grams, then they will get only 37 calories. But you convert it to raisins, and babies will love, children will love eating raisins. They will eat same 100 grams of raisins. Only thing is it will give 537 calories. Then don't blame it on and say they are putting on weight, but you gave them concentrated source of energy. Naturally, they'll put on weight. So you cannot substitute fresh fruits with dry fruits. Okay, so we include dry fruits in smaller quantities. So I covered for you the major macronutrients. The carbohydrate, protein, fat comes to you from the first three. Then the protective and regulatory comes to you from vegetables, fruits, and the third group on that is nuts and herbs, condiments, and spices. I think I should rearrange a little bit. The herbs, condiments, and spices. Columbus set out to search for India only for herbs, condiments, and spices. We are the world's biggest and oldest population only because in the tropical climate, despite so much of vermin staying with us, the hot temperature, we are still the world's biggest population only because we have herbs, condiments, and spices that protect us from infection. Even now, while Canada and Europe and US have got major problem with COVID, we have come out of it quite better. We have lost much less people than the others only because we have got protection of herbs, condiments, and spices. But don't use them in isolation. Don't make it a pearl. Garlic is used as garlic pearls. Turmeric is used as turmeric pearls. No way. You must eat it as a part of your food system on how you do the cooking and use it. So these three are the ones, that is vegetables, fruits, and herbs, condiments, spices, are protective and regulatory. And then I would bring up nuts and oil seeds and fats and oils. Coconut, cashew nut, pistachio, almonds, walnuts, all these things that we add as garnishing gives you both, and you can eat it even as a snack item. They will give you both protein and fat. And then fats and oils, we add ghee to the idli or to the rice, and then we are cooking things by seasoning with oil. All this is giving you some amount of energy as fat energy and gives you fat soluble vitamins. And then the last one is meat, poultry, seafood, and processed foods. All in the alphabet, English alphabet, when you look at A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I comes at the ninth number. And the same ninth group, if you are going to make the child eat only non-veg and processed foods, then what you're doing is you are breaking your child. I make myself or I break myself. You are what you eat. One is what one eats. You are making yourself a healthy person if you take the first 8 groups and not replace it with the ninth group as such. So now I hope you have understood the basic principle of nutrition. One, you need 6 nutrients, and the 6 nutrients are obtained from 9 food groups. I'm not saying don't eat non-veg. I'm saying don't make it a substitute to your dal and vegetables. It is only used as a bonus. It is only used as an additional item, and it should not become a replacement for your vegetables and your dal. Having said that, you have now looked at both the nutrients and the food groups. So now we come to the most important word, and that is the word diet. Now, what does the word diet mean? Everybody likes to use that as a fashion statement. I'm on a diet. Everybody likes to say that. Or some of them make it, they want sympathy out of everybody. Poor thing, she's on a diet. So the word diet is always misconstrued and misused in a very wrong way. But actually, it is derived from the Latin and Greek word, which basically tries to tell you that it is a more favorable means of obtaining required nutrients and in the amounts the body requires rather than resort to supplements. So diet is considered as not helpful in both conditions, whether there is high nutrients or low in nutrients. Both of them is not a right thing. It is not helpful. The other word that you need to remember is in diet is all or none law. What does that mean? All of you know that our heart has got 4 chambers, right? But do they work on shifts? No. What happens if one of the chamber decides not to work? You get a heart attack. So all the 4 chambers have to work on what is known as all or none law. If they don't work together, then you're dead and gone. Similarly, diet also follows what is known as all or none law. That means all the 6 nutrients through the 9 food groups have to be given at each meal in a proper proportion. You cannot eat carbohydrate for breakfast and fat for lunch and protein for dinner. And though all of us have a belly button, it does not work like a mixie button. It doesn't work like a blenderized button. You can't press your belly button and make everything a whole. Okay, you're not a mixie. So you are supposed to eat your carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamins, minerals, water, everything in one meal. Okay, so now when you understand diet, I want you to summarize. I told you about food groups, and I told you how food groups are energy yielding food, body building food, protective and regulatory. I gave you an explanation that. I also told you about nutrients. So now we come to the third part, very important part, and that is the mean time schedule. Okay, when should I eat those nutrients in food form is very, very important for us to understand. Now, to understand that, we use the word meal schedule. And what does meal schedule do? It helps us to have health sustaining equidistribution of nutrients that steadily maintains your body's internal environment, and it curtails in between snacking. Okay, there are people, the reason why I said that, after my responsive parenting, there were questions. People were very anxious and worried about, my child eats, doesn't eat, and all that. Now, I will be answering that questions, but first you need to understand where you're going wrong for you to then understand when I tell you correction, how you must go about doing the correction. So now you need to understand that the meal schedule is something that I establish right from the time the baby starts weaning at 6 months of age. And by the time the child is 1 year old, eats half the quantity of what mother eats. So if the mother is not eating right, don't blame the child. Okay. So when you talk about meal schedule, the components of meal schedules are age, gender, whether male or female, physiological state, physical activity, economic status. These are the factors that go into making a meal schedule. And now you know why meal schedule helps every individual. All right. So then I summarize the meal schedule as a universal mealtime schedule. Now, how did I summarize this? Why have I used words which are italics and underline and they're darker, like activator, energizer, elixir, sustainer, rejuvenator, supporter, revitalizer, relaxer? Why I have given these words? Because when I talk to the children directly, they like something which is very, very exciting for them to understand, remember, and follow. Okay. And as a mother, as a parent, as a caregiver, you are also supposed to be aware of these words so that you can tell your child or explain to your child the rational. Children like to be told why they are doing some things. Don't think they are idiots. They like to follow the peer group. I have found, as I've told repeatedly, the child knows what the grandparent likes or doesn't like, what the parents like or don't like, but neither the grandparents nor the parents know what the child likes or does not like. So please understand this universal mealtime schedule. Very many times the parents themselves don't wake up in good time. How do they expect to get the child to follow them? Now, there is a biological clock that sits in our brain. And can you take it out and give it a key? The answer is no. It is your teeth. When it does the chewing, it tells the brain, okay, I'm setting the clock right. And that has to be done at the right time during the day. And another thing that helps us externally to set it right is the sunrise and sunset. And it is called circadian rhythm of the sun. So our eating pattern follows the time of sunrise and sunset. So bedtime morning, obviously sun rises by 6 o'clock. So we say that's the time when you start the system. Why what? Activating the system. How do you activate the system? With milk. That's how you activated when you were born. Your mother gave you milk. And so you continue with that method of activating your system, which had gone to sleep after bedtime at bedtime. So you first give them milk, activate a beverage. Everybody talks about tea and coffee. Nobody talks about the important ingredient in that, the milk. Which milk to be used? When I ask parents, nowadays nobody talks of milk as white, the color of milk as white. They talk about it as blue, green, and orange. No, that is because the marketing people are talking about modification in terms of fat. What is it that you should give when you're not giving mother's milk? What is the other milk you should give? You should give a milk which is 3% fat and 3% protein. And that would read as the blue packet in an oven. Don't add a drop of water. Don't dilute it. They've already done all the mischief that they need to. So you need to just give the 3% milk. How much? 200 ml is the dose. In one glass, 200 ml of milk. You can add tea or coffee you want to taste, but I think for a child, getting them to get addicted to these things is not a right thing. You don't need to even add sugar, because milk has its own sugar called lactose, which is not as sweet as the man-made sugar, but it is an important sugar that allows the calcium of the milk to be absorbed, which is very, very important for the growth of the skeleton. So please understand, it is not a question of likes and dislikes. It is a question of feeding the body with nutrients that it requires to grow, be healthy and fit. So first thing in the morning they start with is milk. In the next 2 hours or 3 hours maximally, they must have a breakfast. They should not skip it. It is the one which is an essential meal. Please also understand one more thing. A child cannot wake up and eat breakfast immediately. They need a 2 to 3 hours time. If the child needs to go to school at 8 o'clock, the parent will shout and scream and wake up the child at 7:45. And then the mother will brush the teeth. The father will put one lota of water and give the bath. The mother will put on the shorts, depending on whether it's a boy or girl. Then the mother will put the socks, the father will put the shoes. The mother will push milk from one side, father will try pushing idli from the other side. 15 minutes, the child is made ready, bundled into the car, dumped, and said, marathon race over for the day. My job is done. Now the child is gone to school, I can relax. No way, please. The child needs at least 2 hours, and this habit will go on even as an adult. Even you as an adult cannot get up in the morning and eat immediately after that. You need some warming up time. So you activate the system with milk, give yourself 2 to 3 hours gap, and then eat an energizer meal, which is a balanced meal. Please don't do shortcut or cornflakes and all that. Our traditional food is what you must give as a, because it's an energizer meal. And then mid-morning, please do not send. I've always been telling even to the parents at Ekadaksha, do not send a heavy thing at mid-morning. It is the best thing to make them drink something elixir beverage. What is elixir? Nothing but water. So if you give them a fruit juice or you give them a lemon barley, something like that, the child finds it easy to drink it. What is the purpose of making them do that? It is to hydrate them along with some minerals and vitamins. And that is what we want to give at mid morning. That is about 10 o'clock. 12 noon lunch. Why? Not to exceed 1 o'clock. Why 12 noon? Sun is right above your head. And the content of acid in our stomach can even digest stones. So, if your child is not hungry, let the child eat less quantity, but don't make it late for them. Okay? Their hunger pangs are going haywire when you keep changing the time at which they are supposed to eat. And then the enzymes and hormones, they all peak at 12 noon. So if you don't compensate it with the food, they will work adversely on the individual. So it's a sustainer meal, and you need to give it a very bad. If you're a South Indian, then the rice with sambar or dal or koot and curd rice is the best way. Don't give them mixed rice like lemon rice and tamarind rice and or only or rasam rice. Only one thing. That means you're making it imbalanced. And don't give it with pickle or puppards or applams and things like that. It has to have vegetable, and it must have, as I said, sambar or dal or koot, something like that. So it has to be a very sustained. I will elaborate this when I talk about the dietary principles, but you need to understand that it is a sustainer meal, an important meal, and timing is important. If they've eaten by 12, then by 2. If not, by 3. If they've eaten by 1, then by 3. You give a rejuvenator beverage. What is that? Something like buttermilk or something that makes them refreshed. Lime juice, buttermilk, that can be given. So either 4 or 5, supporter meal is tea time. They are not drinking tea or coffee at that time. They're getting a meal. Now, what does that meal consist of? Definitely milk. You can add fruit and make it a milkshake, or give them milk along with the fruit separately. And then a child's fistful, not your fistful, not a big hand, just the child's handful of either the nuts or sprouts or something like that. Don't make it a habit of giving them processed foods like biscuits and cakes and pastries and fried items. There are times when people tell me, oh no, we are eating only bonda once in a week, bhaji once a week, pakoda once a week. Every day is a fried item. Only thing, the names have changed, and then they tell me it's once a week. No, the idea is that you give them more of sundal. It can be cowpea, chickpea, horse gram. It can be in the form of sprouts, and you can also use groundnuts and cashew nuts, and the natural form of nuts, oil seeds, as well as sprouts and things like that. So it's a balanced meal consisting of a fruit and a snack, which is a natural form. Then dinner by 7. Why dinner by 7? Sun sets by 6:30. So within that time, you're supposed to give them dinner. One. Second thing is, you need at least 2 to 3 hours gap between waking up and eating breakfast. You need 2 to 3 hours gap before they go to sleep after eating dinner. So you can't make them eat a late dinner. Oh, the father comes late, so the child is awake till the father comes. So then, and I'm watching my serial, so I start cooking only after the serial is over. No way. The child must be fed at 7 o'clock. Now, if the child is fed at 7 o'clock, you are the role model. So you also have to eat as per the child's requirement, because the way you eat, the child watches and says, ah, mommy eats like this, grandpa eats like this, grandma eats like that. So even I must eat that way. So that, if you follow the same pattern, then the child learns to eat at the right time. And what should you give for dinner? It's a revitalizer meal. That means it has to be one that will help them repair their systems, correct their systems, and save up the energy for them to get up with a bounce in the morning, not get up whining and whimpering and you shouting and screaming. The biological clock, if it is set right, the child will get up even with, like with an alarm within themselves. Okay, so it's a revitalize a meal. Don't do shortcuts. Don't give the leftovers of lunchtime. We made mean Colombo at lunch. So mean was over at lunchtime, but the Colombo remained at night, and that is what you mix rice and gave it to them. Don't do shortcuts like that. And then bedtime night is at 9 o'clock in the night. Why? Because as I told you, they ate at 7. By 9, they should be asleep in the next 2 hours. Now, what is it that you need to give them at this point of time? It's called relaxer beverage. The same milk, convert it to curds. It should be not sour curds. Don't put it in the fridge. And add warm water, make it buttermilk. To the buttermilk, you add a thin paste made up of ginger, green chili, asafoetida, curry leaves, coriander leaves, and cumin powder. Now you just add it for taste, like Avin or Amul gives you masala more. You're just making it that way, but you're making it at home. I want the milk to be converted to curd. So 1 glass of milk converted to 1 glass of curd, add little water, beat it up as a buttermilk. To this, you add this little bit of paste for taste. Now, please remember, 1 glass of milk has gone in the form of buttermilk. So it has filled the stomach. But why buttermilk? Because it is medicine for them. Medicine in 3 counts. 1, it is a sleep inducer. 2, find that their muscles are not keeping pace with the skeletal system, and that is why they have lots of aches and pains. So this buttermilk works as a muscle relaxant. And then because you have added imji powder, turmeric powder,
Doctor, we are not able to hear you. No, sorry, nothing is being heard. Very sorry. Some connectivity issues with the doctor, I think. She'll surely get back again. We'll have to wait for a few minutes. So until now, many of us would have heard a lot of informations what the doctor had given. Very lovely, lovely informations. Each and every episode has been such a big eye opener for us, actually. In fact, this episode, all these slides, presentation is giving even more deeper information, what and all we can give to our children. And this mealtime schedule is something wonderful, beautiful. The good habits which the doctor had told, like, good habit is equal to lifetime of good health. So what a lovely information. The starting itself was too good. And as she said about energy, energy can neither be created or destroyed. It's already there inside us. It's never lost. It's stored, of course, as fat. And it also depends on how we use it. So that slide was also a very beautiful slide with a lovely explanation. And this universal mealtime schedule, of course, it's wonderful information. In fact, with doctors' help and guidance, we at Ekadaksha also have changed a lot of our meal schedules. And also, we have, with doctors' help, for each child, we had given certain plans and ideas what can be given for the child for the breakfast and for our recess time snacks. Mostly we encourage the parents to send some liquid drinks like how doctor had mentioned, so that will help the child to get in the enough energy, and during the lunch time the child is ready hungry and eat a very nutritious food. That also has been a very good input that we had been doing, following at Ekadaksha. And in fact, our timing also at Ekadaksha is at 10 o'clock, because as the doctor said, we cannot rush up our children to eat fast, get up, get ready, eat fast, rush, and we'll end up feeding the child and all. So we always tell the parents, take time, let the child get up, give some time, eat properly, and then send the child. So lovely information. The doctor is back, so we'll continue without any other delay. Yes, doctor. Can you hear us?
Yeah. So move to the
Okay,
next
doctor,
slide,
please.
and that is where
Yeah.
we're talking about the nutrition commandments.
Okay. Again, some connection issues. She's back. Yes, doctor.
Yeah. So the nutrition commandments, where I have said that you are what you eat. Okay. So therefore, when if you eat the right food, then your body structure on a very strong foundation. Wrong foods will give you a weak body. Please change the slide to the next one. Every individual from conception, birth to death, young and old, healthy or infirm, faces trinity of challenges in life. I call them as community nutrition, clinical nutrition, and commercial nutrition. Commercial nutrition is also an important because nowadays we are depending so much on ready to eat food, and lot of products are impacting us, and so guidance from us is very very important in terms of what the community should accept or eat, and if they fall sick, then clinically how this needs to be incorporated. So there are trinity of challenges that are affecting every individual, and they are community, clinical, and commercial nutrition. Having said that, look at the next slide. Why is it very important that you need the help of a nutritionist? Is because see the number of factors that affect the final nutrient count. There are 8 different determinants to the whole thing, and they're divided into different components for each of the determinant. For example, the biological determinant is in terms of age, gender, genetic growth, hunger, appetite, taste, and disease states, etc. So you got 8 different components as far as the biological determinant is concerned. Socioeconomically, we look at poverty, the cost of buying food, the income of the family, the availability of food, that is the socioeconomic, and so you got 4 factors there. Physically, we are looking at access to food, convenience foods, education, time, skills for cooking. Again, another 4 components added under physical determinant. Socially, you got lifestyle, family composition, especially the vulnerable group. How many children? If there are more children in the family will be tending to eat more like. But if there is only one child, then it is the adult who prevails, and the child is forced to eat what the adults like or dislike. So we need to look into the family composition. And then peer pressures. As the child keeps growing, what the other child eats is more important to them. So peer pressures are there. Ethnicity, culture, and religious practices and meal patterns, food habits such as attitude, beliefs, knowledge about food. So again, you're getting another 6 to 7 factors added on under social determinants. Psychologically, mood, stress, depression, and guilt is also another determinant. Environmentally, we are looking at contaminants like lead and other heavy metals and parasites. and others like medication, alcohol, and drug abuse. Sum total, you have 8 determinants and 30 components that work on the final nutrient count. So it's not an easy equation. It's not a simple thing. Okay. Of you put the food on the plate and then just say, oh, the child refused and the child doesn't eat. And so you try to find an alternate which is wrong. So there is a lot of calculation that goes into feeding because there are several factors that affect the final nutrient count. Having said that, when I make an assessment, I am looking at the specific criteria in terms of individuals' nutritional status, because they are affected by, now you can see, affected more than just food alone. So I take a constellation of physical findings in an appropriate clinical situation that points to a nutritional disorder. So I call it the ABCD of nutritional assessment. A is anthropometric measurements. Many of you parents would have seen me taking height and weight of your child. Okay. And then biochemical lab data. Sometimes I've asked whether you have got any lab test done for anemia or any such thing. Please bring that report to me. And then clinical determinants. I look from head to toe and see if the child is showing any overt sign of deficiency. And then I invariably ask the dietary information in 24 hours. What is the time? What is it that the child eats or drinks at that time? And I take all these 4 components and create a holistic profile of nutritional status to be used to develop specific and ongoing nutritional interventions in support of other appropriate medical procedures as such. Having said that, you need to understand that while I have told you ABCD, look at the components that go into the comprehensive nutritional assessment. I have to take into consideration medical history, dietary history, social history, medication history, care plan, what is the type of care that is already being given, anthropometric measures, body composition measures, lab data, immune function, all the more important now in COVID times, nutrition focused health history and physical examination. And now we also add extra component called functional test, how much the person is able to do. You can understand this, the child will have no tight grip. Sometimes we make them say, do shake hands and press my hand, and you will find that the child does not have the strength to press your hand. So we also look at the functional test. So these are the components of the comprehensive nutritional assessment. It's an elaborate procedure. It takes me anything between almost 60 to 90 minutes to make an assessment and move forward. Having said that, once I make a nutritional status assessment, I am looking at, what am I looking at? I'm looking at malnutrition. Malnutrition is nothing but bad nutrition. It's a real time bomb warning on 2 counts. It tells you where the problem is heading and when it will explode. Okay. And it is a pathological state resulting from a relative or an absolute deficiency or from excess of one or more essential nutrition. As I said, malnutrition is nothing but bad nutrition. And there are, earlier it used to be, we were talking only of two classes, marasmus and kwashiorkor. Marasmus results from long-term deprivation of nutrients, easily recognized by wasted, cacatic appearance. If your child is looking so skinny and thin and short, then they are marasmic. But if a child looks a moon-faced, bloated, then they are kwashiorkor. Kwashiorkor actually is derived from the word Swali, African language Swali, which means the disease the first child gets when the second child is born. That is because in those days, very quickly the child was weaned off from breastfeeding into regular foods, and the child was not used to regular foods, did not allow them to transit. So then the amount of protein deficiency that set in was resulting in a situation called kwashiorkor. But now we are in a different problem. Earlier, it used to be either marasmus or kwashiorkor. Now we get combination of both marasmus and kwashiorkor, and this is much more difficult to handle on a clinical basis. So please remember, malnutrition is bad nutrition, and it means both excess, that is overnutrition, as well as deficit, which is undernutrition. Next slide, please. Okay, so underweight or grossly starved comes under undernutrition. Both over and under nutrition is bad nutrition called malnutrition. So please remember this word, that malnutrition is what I assess. The degree of malnutrition is what I assess when I make a nutritional status assessment in an individual. Now, there are 5 different reasons which can result in a deficiency, okay, in your child. Too little in, how much they require. If that much is not going inside, too little in, it will result in nutritional deficiency. Failure to absorb, they might be eating but the body is not absorbing it, that can result in nutrient deficiency. Too much out, either they are vomiting or they have got diarrhea or loose motion, or anything that makes, or somewhere they keep falling and hurting, and so much of blood is lost. All different reasons why too much is thrown out of the body. And then failure to utilize, like in diabetes, okay, you have given carbohydrate but they cannot utilize it, and that is the reason why it is of no use to the body. There is a deficiency. Or increased requirements, when they pick up infection or something, they require more for every 1 degree rise in temperature Fahrenheit, they require about 7% more energy to be consumed. For every 1 degree centigrade increase, they require about 13% to 14% more energy. But you know that it is tough when a child has got fever to be feeding them. On one hand, it is increased requirements. On the other hand, it will be too little in that is going in. So you can understand it is not just one problem. A combination of problems will also cause you the same nutritional deficiency as such. Okay. So with today's session, you have come to a thing where you're educated, and I will say you can all get your doctorate, you can get your PhD. What is that? Positive health degree. I'm not talking of doctor of philosophy, that we talk in terms of education, but we're talking about positive health degree. All of you can get PhD, and that is because you should incorporate the nutritional principles, understand it with rational, and persistently implement it, which is very, very important. One of the best methods of developing good food habits is for the whole family to eat wisely. Don't feed the children in isolation. Feed it, you all need to eat together, so that you can say, see, it went in dad. Who will eat fast? Dad will eat fast, or mom will eat fast, or the baby will eat fast. You need to give them some driving force, to some incentive for them to eat wisely. And you have to be a role model. Meal time should be one of the pleasant times of the day for the whole family together. Don't try and teach the child in isolation. Very, very difficult. And you please go back to the responsive parenting slides, where you will jump to wrong conclusion when the child refuses food, and then you will be doing more harm than good. A community at large pays the least attention on what is picked up by the hand and placed inside the mouth. If one were to fill one's car park with a car tank with water instead of petrol, the tank is full, but the car will not even budge a millimeter. So you have to feed the right quantity, the right quality of food for the child to grow and have tons of energy to study and play. Similarly, if one eats without thinking, one fills the stomach but starves the body. So good food habits gives you a lifetime of health. I have tried to summarize the whole of nutritional principles in about 20 slides for you, so that that forms the basis on which in the next session I will build up on dietary principles. But please remember that I will be building the community clinical commercial nutrition on this baseline. It cannot change. Carbohydrate, protein, fats, vitamins, minerals, water, whether you are healthy, whether you are infirm, whether your child right from birth, conception until old age, it's the same for everybody. And hence you have to consider food as thy medicine, and therefore you must know what is your food, and you must also know about yourself, so that you are going to make a perfect marriage and see that nutrition principles will impact your dietary principles, and you will be eating a very healthy
Thank you so much, Doctor. Lovely informations. As Doctor had mentioned, I think by the end of all the 4 episodes that we have planned with the Doctor, we will be getting our PhD. That is positive health degree. So as the doctor had also already mentioned, our next week's session episode will be about dietary principles, which is on 19th February, Friday, same time, same day. And thank you so much, doctor, for such a beautiful and such a patiently explaining all in detail. The mealtime plan is something which each parent should know how to go about. In fact, all your presentations till now, we need to keep going through again and again to understand it even more better and to make use of it in our daily life. So to finish off with today's episode, Doctor had already mentioned what we are is what we eat. So, let's start making use of all these informations given here so that we can have a beautiful life and we can live a lifetime of good health. Let's start with small steps. Of course, it's too many informations. So let us start with small steps. Until next week, see you all. See you all with a meet you all with a new topic. Goodbye and happy weekend. Thank you so much, doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Yes.